Okay guys, so I'm finally able to get out and do the casting impressions video of the new REVO EXD. Now it's been raining the last couple of days and it's the first clear day, and as you can see they are draining the lake for winter, but I think I still got plenty of water out there to do this test. Now, I got the REVO EXD spooled up with 10-pound mono, and it's mounted on a 6'8" Megabass RYOGA. And incidentally, this rod is the only rod that would technically match up in color with the REVO EXD because it's purple. And hopefully you can see it's a pretty sick looking combo. But not that that matters, but this is a 6'8" medium, moderate fast. Now what I did was I looked at the instructions and the paperwork for the REVO EXD to see if Abu Garcia gave any kind of special, instructions on how to set this reel up, but there was nothing but the spool tension, nothing about, magnets or whatnot. So we're just going to set this up how I normally set it up, and that means I'm going to set the spool tension to just minimize the side-to-side movement. And while the spool tension does click, it is very stiff and hard to turn, which is kind of a good thing, but it kind of defeats the purpose of putting in this brass insert. So still got a little bit of movement there. Gonna keep tightening that up. All right, the movement is gone. And we're gonna start off with the brakes on maximum. And the lure I'm gonna start off with is just a standard JACKALL square bill crankbait that's about 1/2 ounce. And we're gonna see what this REVO is all about. Okay, so immediately I noticed that the REVO EXD is pretty comfortable to palm, and the casting ergonomics seem to be pretty good. The thumb bar seems to be in the middle of high and low. So Shimano's thumb bars are generally pretty high and everyone else's is pretty low, but this seems like it's kind of in between. Okay, here we go. First cast on the REVO EXD. Okay, as to be expected, didn't really go out that far with brakes on maximum. Very smooth caster, very quiet. Let's do a couple more. Now once again, for some reason Abu Garcia, they set this REVO EXD up with more braking than usual. They have more magnets on the inside, as well as the plate, the metal plate that the magnets interact with sticks out a little bit further than their other magnetic brake reels. But I'm assuming they know what they're doing. So we're gonna back these brakes down. Before we do that though, I just want to show you guys, hopefully the camera will pick it up, but the paint job has a lot of flakes in it. I can see red, I can see blue, purple, green even. So you really can't see it unless the sunlight hits it, but yeah, that's a pretty sick paint job. A lot of little colors in there. All right, so I'm gonna back these brakes down. And once again, this has no brake dot clicker, so I'm just gonna have to. Okay guys, so I'm back. I had to take a few minutes to let that guy mount his boat. But yeah, let's start backing the brakes down on this REVO EXD. And I just want to show you guys something that I discovered while he was mounting his boat up. Now I have the brakes set to maximum right now. Spool tension set to minimize the side-to-side play. Let's take a look at this. Super slow fall. And when the lure hit the water, there was no loops or overruns. But if I turn the brakes to their minimum position, boom. So these are some really strong brakes. Once again, that's kind of interesting that Abu Garcia would turn the brakes up on a reel that is made for distance casting. Okay, all right, so one more time with the brakes on maximum. I'd say it's going out there about 20 yards, maybe 25 yards. Okay, so it feels very weird to not have a brake dial clicker on an Abu Garcia, so I kind of just have to adjust this by feel. And I think I've turned it probably what would be equivalent to 2 clicks. Okay, distance didn't really go up that much. One thing I can say is that the knobs on this EXD feel like they're already worn in. They're very soft. And let's go down a little bit more. Now luckily the feel of turning the brake dial, even though it doesn't have clicks, feels pretty precise. All right, I think I gained probably about a good 10 foot right there. It's probably going out there about 30 yards. Okay, we're going to go down a little bit more. All right, it's probably going out there about 35 yards. I did see a small overrun at the very beginning of the cast, but other than that, the EXD cast is very smooth. It doesn't have that loud, grindy cast feeling of, let's say, the REVO X. And that could be the spool bearings, since these are supposed to be a higher spec spool bearing, apparently. Okay, let's go down a little bit more. Let's get brave. Now the brake dial is right here, and this is usually about the limit of any Abu Garcia that has magnetic brakes that I've ever casted. So let's see what happens. All right. Looks like it's going out there about 35 yards, probably close to 40. So far, so good. Now the retrieve is powerful enough for this square bill, even though it is the extra high speed 8-to-1 gear ratio. But let's go down a little bit more. Oh shit. All right, needless to say, I think I've reached the limit here. Hopefully I'll be able to pick this out. Okay, so I'm going to turn the brakes up, probably, hopefully, the equivalent of about 1 click, and we'll see what happens. Nope, didn't like that either. Okay, so let's turn up the brakes a little bit more. Hopefully that'll solve this issue. All right, so I think I'm right on the limit. As you can see, there was fluffing in the middle of the cast. That sorted itself out, but the lure went out there probably close to 40 yards. I'm gonna do a couple more casts with this square bill. Went to the same spot, probably about 40 yards. I turned the brakes up just a hair bit more. Hopefully that'll cure that overrun, and maybe that will give us a few more feet on the cast. All right, I think the lure probably went a little bit shorter. Still had an overrun. But that's magnetic brakes for you. So I would say that's going out there about a good 40 yards tops. for this 1/2 ounce square bill. Let's do one more cast. Okay, so we've observed the cast distance of the REVO EXD, and to be honest, I really can't tell if this is really casting any longer than any other reel, because when you're casting in isolation, especially with a reel that's designed for long casting, you know, the distances mean nothing unless you have a measuring stick. And I brought a measuring stick with me. That is the REVO STX. Now, a more fair comparison would have been the REVO Premier, which cost $300 just like the EXD. And I've heard that reel has a super lightweight spool, somewhere around 10 grams, maybe even lighter. But unfortunately, I don't have a REVO Premier, and I was tempted to bring out the CHRONARCH MGL, but I decided to stay in-house, and we're going with the REVO STX. Okay guys, so off camera, I have been casting the REVO STX and backing the brakes down, and I could go down to 2 brakes inside, and the external dial set to right here. Spool tension is set to just minimize the side-to-side play. And I have the STX mounted on a 6'8" medium Shimano Bantam that has a moderate fast taper, so pretty much equal to that Megabass high Yuga that the EXD is mounted on. And let me show you what happened. Okay, so right there, the lure probably went out probably close to 40 yards. Wasn't the best cast, but I'm going to do several casts and I'm going to let you guys observe to see which reel you think was casting farther. Now I'm standing in the same place, casting the exact same square bill, using the exact same 10-pound line. Okay guys, so to be honest, I really couldn't tell that much of a difference in distance between the REVO EXD and the REVO STX. They look to be going about the same distance, roughly about 40 yards. And keep in mind that the STX has a smaller 33mm spool that's heavier as well. It's about 15 grams versus the, I believe, 11-gram spool and the bigger 35mm spool of the EXD. But once again, the STX does have centrifugal brakes. So like I said, I couldn't tell the difference from this vantage point which reel was casting farther, and maybe you guys could, but I think this needs a side-to-side cast view battle. So I'm going to go to my side-to-side cast battle spot, see if we can see a difference between them from a different vantage point. Okay, so I've decided that I was going to do something a little bit different for the side view cast battle, and that is showing you guys the casts one after the other. And what I've done was I've put a red arrow pointing to the top of a stick that's poking out of the water, and we're going to use that as a guide to compare where these casts are landing and which reel was casting farther and more consistent. And I think this will help you guys out as far as seeing the casts land better than it would if I were to stack the footage up on top of the other, and that kind of distorts the footage anyway. So view this footage carefully and try to figure out which reel you think was casting farther and more consistently. Okay, so back from the water, and apparently the letters EXD don't stand for extreme distance. It stands for extreme disappointment, in my opinion, because not only was I not impressed with the cast distances of the REVO EXD, the REVO STX was clearly outcasting the EXD and doing it more consistently once I've reviewed the casting footage, and particularly the sideways footage. Now, just to let you guys know, the lure that I used for the sideways footage was a 3/8 ounce rooster tail, which the total weight on this thing is closer to half an ounce. But anyone who's ever fished these knows that these lures cut through the air very well. But with that being said, the REVO STX looks like it was outcasting the EXD by an average of about 5 to possibly 8 feet. So not a lot, but still very disappointing considering the cost of the EXD and what its purpose is supposed to be. And I'm wondering how Abu Garcia came to the conclusion that this reel was an extreme distance caster. Maybe they were just testing it with casting plugs instead of, you know, real world lures with hooks and whatnot. But yeah, so far a very big disappointment. If you were going for casting distance and you have to have an Abu Garcia, I'll probably look into that REVO Premier instead. But that being said, I still plan on doing a follow-up video testing out the finesse spool of the REVO EXD. I'll probably do it alongside a couple of other reels as well, just to get an overall feel on how good it casts versus other reels with that finesse spool. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, I'm gonna take this EXD and put it through several other tests, including a very special one very soon. So be on the lookout for that. All right, guys, thanks a lot.